Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about the Peacemaker series, just some, discussions about what we know about it so far. This will involve me talking about some spoilers from The Suicide Squad. So if you have not seen The Suicide Squad, you have been warned. So obviously looking up into it a little bit more, because I had questions upon watching the Suicide Squad movie and seeing where Peacemaker's story ended up going, about, because a lot of people, like myself included, were kind of thinking maybe the TV show was going to be a prequel because it was unclear whether or not Peacemaker was going to survive or not. Obviously he does, but it seems like the series is going to be a past and future, like it's going to be a prequel and a sequel. So there's going to be past elements of understanding how he became the person he is, all about killing people for the sake of like keeping peace, no matter who he has to kill, obviously going through with everything he did in the Suicide Squad to cover up the US government's involvement with the whole Starro project. So there's that. Some of the casting news has come out that I was reading from, I believe it was a Screen Rant article, is Robert Patrick is going to be playing his character, because it seems like that's going to be a big focus of his relationship with his dad, which I think is interesting because a lot of the other Suicide Squatters like talked about their family situation. Obviously Bloodsport talked about his dad, obviously the big one being Ratcatcher like commenting on her father, and obviously that whole thing led to a bond between them, which him having the father issues that he does, like I think that speaks even more volumes. He could have bonded with them, but he chose not to. I mean, that was their scene and he didn't want to step on, but I think that also shows you he was part of the team, but yet also very detached, because he always had a separate mission from the rest of the team. They ultimately all joined together and became heroes, saving the day, saving people, well, the people that weren't killed by Starro and everything. But like I said, I just think it's interesting because even Polka Dot Man like opened up about his mom and everything, so it's interesting that amongst them you had Peacemaker keeping quiet about his family's circumstances. So I think that's going to be interesting, diving into that post like the Suicide Squad, knowing like, right, here I am with my father issues, which might have led me to become the way I am. Maybe his father's, the mentality that he has is something that was beaten into him by his father, or maybe it's something the US government beat into him and made him into this soldier, all about like where he got his notion of peace. Questions like that is definitely going to be interesting to something else, someone on the character, I'm excited to, I forgot who was playing the character, but Vigilante's popping up in this, which I'm like, okay, that's pretty dope. I'm only familiar with the character because of Arrow, and so I don't know if that's like one version of the character, or at the very least what the character is capable of doing, because in Arrow the character has like a crazy powerful healing ability, like in that Deathstroke vein of like, oh, I'm good with weapons, and so that's definitely going to be interesting to see, because under my impression it's like this is going to be kind of like a Suicide Squad-esque team built. He's like the main person from the movies back, except for like the two main people that betrayed Waller, because at least Waller probably never saw the person that actually knocked her out. I mean, I don't know if we saw her at the end of the movie or not, because she might have gotten killed. The other two got relocated to like having to be forced to work with him. Obviously we saw that in the post-credits. So other than that, like, who else beyond that's returning? It seems like it's just them. There's a few characters they talked about which would just be specific to the show. They're not from the comics at all. So that's, but a lot of that's just kind of interesting in its own right. But yeah, the thing I brought up during my discussion of the Suicide Squad is the big thing of the sequel elements are really interesting to me too, because this is going to be him after he killed Rick Flag. Like, he didn't want to do it, but he saw all about his mission and he thinks that it will restore peace. But it's like, I'm curious what he's going to do in the aftermath of obviously and at the end of the day, Bloodsport never released that information. He just threatened to release it if anything ever happens to him in the squad. So, but I think that's going to be the interesting thing, that Bloodsport found his own way to peace by making it so that the US government's involvement was never revealed, but they also saved the day by stopping Starro, because that's probably going to be a whole conversation. Yo, you missed it out. There was a freaking kaiju, and it's a whole battle, and the Suicide Squatters, they won, so it's probably going to make him lament, because it's going to make him drive like, right, I was never part of the squad. I was there for my own mission. That's the reason why I'm here, because Waller's like, amongst all those treacherous bastards who turned against me, who decided to do their own thing, you were the only one that stayed on mission. You did what was necessary, but dealing with the fact is of having killed Rick because he was trying to do the right thing, especially considering you respected him as a hero and everything. So once again, showing that your thought of, like, you know, absolute peace, nothing else matters unless when it comes to achieving said peace. I'm still believing that you did the right thing, you're on the right path, but obviously you have your reservations because you even still you made a whole point of still feeling bad about the fact is that you were going to have to kill Ratcatcher, and it's like having to come to terms with all of that. Like I've said, I assume has to deal with his father. Maybe not. I mean, maybe there's something related to his father that put him in a position to become who he became, and maybe he became he became who he is not because of his father, but in spite of his father. Maybe he had a very chaotic life. So this whole thing about, like, getting peace by any means necessary might be him trying to make up for some, like, childhood trauma or something like that, for all we know. I'm really curious to see who he is at the end of this series, like, you know, with flashbacks to the past, with who he is, like, going through this current mission, whatever it may be. I'm curious where he'll end up at the end of all of this. It's definitely going to be interesting, especially, like I said, the Suicide Squaders came out, and we'll probably hear a little bit about, like, oh, what happened to them post Suicide Squad. Maybe they'll cover that, maybe they won't, but a lot of that's very exciting. Like, I was already really interested into the Peacemaker series, but because of the Suicide Squad, getting to spend time with the character, get to know the character, because obviously the Peacemaker series was announced before the movie even came out. But because of all of that, now I know the character and I really dig the character and understand, like, oh man, this guy is complicated, especially post the Suicide Squad. So I'm interested to see how he deals with those complications. Obviously, this is some of the stuff going through my head. I'd love to get to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you agree with some of the stuff I said? Did you disagree? What are some things you want to see? What are some things you expect to see from the series? Let me know. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good